Ah, welcome, Nerevar. You are here for yet another one of my sermons, I see. Let me check my list here a second. Bosmer is done, orcs are done. We have not spoken about Bretons yet. Right, I remember now why I kept pushing these for later. Well, what to do about it? Sit tight and let me tell you 10 reasons, good reasons, to utterly despise Bretons. Number 1, lackluster magic. Yes, they wield magic. I'll give them that much credit. But let's not forget their origins, shall we? Bretons are but a mishmash of the feeble blood of men and the diluted essence of myrrh. Their so-called proficiency in magic is nothing but a consequence of their ancestral mingling, a weak imitation of true power. Number 2, hypocritic heritage. Yes, they carry within them the diluted blood of ancient Mer, remnants of a time long past when the Direni ruled over their pitiful lands. And what do they do with this heritage? They boast and brag, as if their diluted lineage grants them some sort of superiority. But let us not forget that it was the Bretons who rebelled against their elven overlords in the first place. The irony is palpable, Nerevar. They revel in their rebellion against the very elves whose blood they claim to cherish. Number 3, politically broken. Let us turn our gaze to the fractured and feeble political landscape of High Rock. For all their supposed culture and history, what have the Bretons truly accomplished? They have managed to splinter their lands into a myriad of petty kingdoms, each vying for dominance over the others. It's a spectacle of greed and ambition, with noble families clambering over one another in their insatiable thirst for power, all the while stabbing each other in the back with the subtlety of a comedy villain. What could be more noble indeed than hindering the progress of your own nation? Number 4, divided loyalties. The Bretons cannot seem to settle on a single side to support. One day they align themselves with the Altmer, basking in the false glory of elven supremacy. The next, they cozy up to the Nords, lured by promises of strength and conquest. And let us not forget their dalliances with the mongrel dog empire, groveling at the feet of their imperial masters in hopes of gaining favor and protection. But do they possess any true loyalty, Nerevar? No, they are mere fancily dressed mercenaries, willing to sell their allegiance to the highest bidder. Number 5, primitive culture. The depths of Breton culture, or should I say their facade of civilization. They parade around with their knights, their castles, and their noble titles, proclaiming themselves to be paragons of sophistication and refinement. But what lies beneath this veneer of supposed civilization? Druidism, of all things. Can you believe it, Nerevar? While the rest of Tamriel has moved on to worshipping the false gods, which at least call themselves gods, these Bretons still cling to their primitive beliefs in trees and rocks. Yes, they bow down before nature itself. They cosplay as Bosmer, and yet, despite the absurdity of their beliefs, these druids hold sway over the Breton populace, dictating their behavior and guiding their actions like puppets. Number 6, orc mistreatment. At this point, you should remember from my previous sermons that the orcs have been constantly besieged and raided since always, yes? Well, if there ever were a people to bear the blame for the plight of the orcs, it is the Bretons themselves. Throughout history, the Bretons have been the main culprits behind all these attacks. They send their knights on crusades, not in the name of righteousness, but to plunder and pillage the lands of these overgrown goblins. The transformation of the once peaceful tribe of shamanistic orcs into hardened and brutal warriors, forced to defend themselves against the ceaseless onslaught of Breton aggression, their very nature twisted and distorted by millennia of persecution and violence. Number 7, worthless knighthood. For many young children, the dream of becoming a knight may seem like a romantic fantasy, adorned with shining armor, gallant steeds, and noble deeds. Yet what awaits those who don the mantle of knighthood? Far from the glory and grandeur they envision, they are thrust into a world of ceaseless warfare, where they clash against other knights in meaningless battles, with no gain or reward to be had. Gone are the days of gallant tournaments and chivalrous duels. Instead, they find themselves embroiled in endless conflicts, fighting for the petty ambitions of their lords and masters, mere tools of politics and intrigue. What a grand and intoxicating innocence! Oh, they may wear their heraldry and decorate their armor with pomp and circumstance, but in truth, they are nothing but glorified foot soldiers, expendable pawns in a game of power and politics. Even an orc warrior, with their brutal efficiency and straightforward approach to combat, is more productive than these so-called knights. Number 8. Conflicting development. You see, Nerevar, Breton society, is as divided as their loyalties and land. On one side, you have the traditionalists, clinging desperately to the vestiges of the past, embracing druidic magic, upholding the old noble hierarchy, and resisting against change and innovation. On the other side, you have the progressives, merchants with burgeoning fleets and thriving businesses, master crafters operating industrial-level smithies, and urbanization spreading like wildfire. Yet instead of embracing the potential synergy between tradition and progress, these factions find themselves locked in a bitter struggle, each seeking to hinder the other at every turn. It is a tragic irony, Nerevar. If they could set aside their differences and work together, High Rock could easily ascend to become the preeminent power in Tamriel. But alas, their divisions prove to be their undoing. What fools they are. Number 9. Unscrupulous merchants. The Breton merchant groups, those unscrupulous entities that wield vast wealth and influence across Tamriel, yet answer to no king nor kingdom. With their vast fleets and heavily guarded caravans traversing the length and breadth of Tamriel, amassing fortunes and consolidating power with each transaction. Take, for example, the East Empire Company, a behemoth among merchant groups, essentially a kingdom unto itself, sanctioned and empowered by the mongrel dog empire itself. They monopolize products, manipulate prices, and exploit every opportunity to line their coffers with ill-gotten gains. Number 10. Septim. Now this is the one major issue, Nerevar. One would have thought that the mongrel dogs of the Empire would restrict their little influence to Cyrodiil. But no, Septim. Talos Stormcrown, or rather Yalti Earlybeard, was a Breton from none other than some insignificant island kingdom of High Rock. Yes, Nerevar, the one that pushed forward the unification of Tamriel and stole my divine right to use the Numidium, is none other than some Breton Enwa. If this is not enough to despise them, I do not know what is. Honestly, if all of this was a tier list, the only reason they wouldn't be last is because the mongrel dogs are worse. But then it becomes a what came first kind of problem. As always, remember to honor the 6th house and the tribe unmourned by raising your thumbs, subscribing to my sermons, and leaving your comments in the parchment below. I thank my loyal patrons for not buying from Breton stores, and immense gratitude to the adoring fan, Connor Runda, and this realm's Sharmat, Tanya Davis. Sorry, what? Warp in the West? Oh no, no. We do not talk about the warp in the West here, Nerevar.